The Australian Financial Review.
So we needed to give everyone a relationship with the truth of what was really happening underneath it all, to be as transparent as possible with the entire team. We are all part of the problem, and therefore we are all part of that solution collectively and as an entire team, and it takes an entire team to transform an organisation.
Hi, I'm Sally Patton, editor of Boss from the Australian Financial Review, and welcome to 15 Minutes with the Boss, a podcast about success and failure and everything in between, and along the way we're hoping to get some really great advice from our leaders. My guest today is Christelle Young, the Managing Director of T2T and one of the winners of this year's Financial Review Women in Leadership Awards. Hi Christelle, how are you?
Hi Sally, I'm well, thank you.
Now, as I said, you're the Managing Director of T2T, which is a chain of specialty tea shops. Mm-hmm. Indeed, you have 62 stores across Australia, New Zealand and Singapore, and they generate annual sales of more than $121 million, and you've got more than 650 employees. I am informed that you have around 100 different teas on your shelves. And my fun fact is that your two most popular herbal teas are Sleep Tight and Quiet Mind, and the bestseller is French Earl Grey. So actually, what's your favourite tea on that note?
Yes, but another fun fact, Sally, is our most popular tea at the moment is our matcha. Soon to be our number one tea on the shelf. It is growing at such a phenomenal rate, depending on which week you look at. At the start of the year, it was growing 50% year on year. Now it's growing about 120% year on year. So the growth of matcha is incredible, and it would definitely be one of my favourites at the moment. But I do love a green tea too. So our Buddha's Tears is an example. I had this morning a pot of Buddha's Tears. And then ending the day with some herbals, whether it be peppermint. Quiet Mind is also a favourite of mine.
Wow, okay. We have only got 15 minutes. I'm going to start the clock right now. Let's get going. My first question is about your morning routine. What time do you get up? What happens?
I normally start the day at about 6 o'clock. My gentle alarm will go off. At 6 o'clock, I normally just sit in bed and meditate. I'll do Vipassana meditation. And then after that, I will probably normally check a bit of emails, do a little bit of work, depending on the day, checking what my day ahead will look like. I will always walk my kids to the school bus stop. It's part of our little morning routine. And then after that, I go for a daily run with my husband and our dog. Followed by coming home, matcha, my morning matcha ritual, and anything from a traditional ceremonial matcha to one of our amazing T2 flavoured matchas that we have at the moment. I do love to brew a pot of tea and have my shower with a cup of tea, and then, off to work after that.
So how long do you meditate for, and what does your meditation involve?
Anything from 10 minutes to half an hour to an hour, maybe if I've got time on the weekend. And it really is just involving almost like scanning the body. Vipassana is the meditation. It's where you traditionally learn it, where you go away for 10 days and 10 days of silence. So it's no reading, no writing, no talking, no speaking. I've never done anything like it in my life. It's extremely hard, but I'd never looked back.
And how long do you run for?
I run most days unless I'm sick or got a very early morning meeting, and it can be anything from 1.6 Ks, just a mile around the block. On average, most mornings it's about 4 or 5 Ks, and then on the weekend I would normally do a longer run. Last weekend I did 12 Ks with my son and husband. It just forms a habit too, even if it is at 1.5 Ks or something really small. It's just part of a routinely habit. But it also just a mental reset too every day. It's this freshness, it's getting the body pumping, the heart, the blood. You just feel mentally ready to go.
Oh, I love that. Okay, fantastic. My next question is about a pivotal moment in your career. Was there a project you worked on, a promotion that you were given that changed the nature of what you were doing?
If I think about moments in my career that have really shaped my leadership, it's probably these little micro moments where people believed in me before I even believed in myself. So I wouldn't say it's one moment, but many, and I can recall many from primary school or high school days, having a teacher ask me if I wanted to be a year level captain one year. And I just thought, I'd never even thought about putting my hand up for year level captain. And I also remember at university having a professor say that, I think you should be a CEO one day with the way that you lead teams. And having these little moments where people believe in you just gives you this confidence you didn't know that you had. Even in my job, there's been many times I had to look after order to cash in a global transformation. I never came from a finance background. I never thought I could do that, but other people believed in me before I did. And it really helped shape the way that I think also about leadership and encouraging others to say, you've got this, you've got such an amazing ability, or you can do better too. So that's really shaped me quite a bit. Speaking up when things are out of scope or not in scope, instead of tiptoeing around a situation, just being really direct. Transparency has been one of my biggest learnings, which my whole team at T2 will know that I'm very passionate about the value of transparency, that we collectively know the problem we're trying to solve for. We're very transparent about it. And communication is the other part to that too. So just bringing everyone.
So Christelle, when you arrived at T2 about 12 months ago, the business was not in great shape, and you were apparently very transparent with your staff about the state of the business.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about that, why you did it and what the outcome was.
That's a great question. So it wasn't in the best of shape, T2, as a business, and we had to make some very difficult decisions like shutting some stores. No one wants to shut a store. And what was really important was to take everyone on the journey. So we needed to give everyone a relationship with the truth of what was really happening underneath it all. And not just in the financial side of things, but in every single department, what was really happening under the hood. It was the first time for some of the staff there to really truly understand what was going on, what was profitable, what wasn't profitable, what was working. A lot of the staff didn't really know this intimately or with detail, and it certainly wasn't shared with the wider organisation too. So it was a value from the onset to be as transparent as possible with the entire team, because we all have a relationship with the truth. We are all part of the problem, and therefore we are all part of that solution collectively and as an entire team. And it takes an entire team to transform an organisation.
Did the team take your comments in a positive light, or did it just install fear in them?
A little bit of both. To be very honest, there's a little bit of fear of, oh no, what does that mean? What are we going to do? And then there is a little bit of, oh wow, like I had no idea. Now I can do something about this because I really want to be part of the solution. What was important for the latter of those that had feared to also understand that there is a path forward and there is a solution and we will get through this. At the end of last year was the end of our financial year. For us in December, we finished the year as one of our most profitable years in over 12 years. So those little drops of success too just motivates even more the team and excites them to go, we are on the right direction. We can absolutely transform and we've got a path forward.
That's great. So nextly, what is the best piece of career advice you've ever been given?
Not tiptoeing around situations. The other big one that I recall that is really prominent in my mind is that sometimes no decision is the worst decision that you could possibly make. It's better to make a decision, even it's not necessarily the right decision, move on. If you fail fast, learn, quickly change and pivot, but just keep going with momentum, because leaving people in the unknown is sometimes the worst thing you can do.
And can you think of a time when you failed to make a decision and what happened?
When I'm making a hiring decision, there's pros and cons with every candidate that you review. And instead of just saying, look, this is the one we're going to go with, there's going to be some cons, but let's just make sure we mitigate against that, whether it means upskilling them or educating them in a certain area, and just making a decision and go with it and move on. It's that 80-20 rule. You can get 80% of the answer in 20% of the time, and you get the rest of that 20% answer, the details of that answer, in 80% of the time. And it's just balancing between getting that 80 and 20 balance right.
That's really good advice. On that note, we are going to take a short break, but don't go away. We're going to come back and open the chatterbox. Welcome back to 15 Minutes with the Boss. I'm here with Christelle Young, the Managing Director of T2T in Australia, New Zealand and Singapore. Now, Christelle, this is our section called the Chatterbox. But today, instead of a box, we have a hat. So we're going to call it the Chatter Hat.
Great.
I am going to ask you to have a fish around in the hat, pick out some questions, and we'll get going with some more Q&A.
Here we go.
Tell me about a time when you failed at something. How did you recover and what did you learn?
I would probably go back to people management. A few factors on people management, actually. There's the way I used to hire for people.
So how did you used to hire for people that you would not do now?
A little bit more based on experience and have they done the job before, have they not done the job before, looking at the CV, the level of experience, and miss factors about potential. Have they got the potential to do that job? I think that's probably the biggest difference between how I do it now and what I used to do. Often you can have people that are very experienced, but do they have the potential to go even further above and beyond? Sometimes there's some little diamonds in the rough with those that might not have experience, but they're very smart, they're very agile, they're very quick to learn, and they'll pick it up 10 times quicker. So really trying to find the nuggets around potential.
I love that. Have another fish in the hat. What was your first ever job and what did it teach you?
My first ever job was at a novelty store. Do you remember those novelty stores that sold lava lamps and beanie kits?
Oh, yes.
I don't know if anyone remembers them. I remember my pay slip, and I remember it was about $5 an hour that I used to get. And I was at one point the weekend manager, so I was at school still, and this was one of my first retail jobs. So it taught me a lot about leadership to begin with, taking responsibility, being accountable for things that were much bigger than me. Was accountable for a till and managing money and opening and closing a store, rosters, things like that were so new to me. I would have been a teenager at the time. So it makes you grow up very fast. But also, I often think about some of those early retail jobs that I had today and what it was like to be on a floor and get instructions from a head office who's so removed from the day-to-day. I often reflect on those moments now, actually, because I know what it felt like being on the weekend and running that roster and running that retail store.
Yeah, interesting. So what is it that you love about retail?
The people side of things. I love the whole helping people shop. I love being on the shop floor. So if ever I get a moment to help some of the team being on the shop floor, I do love that side of things. Helping people shop for a gift for a loved one. And we're in a really amazing category. We're in tea. There's nothing more that you could want to promote to people. It's about healthy living. It's about the art of living well. It's about gifting to others. It's about cultures from all around the world. So it's a real celebration of humanity, which I love the most about T2.
How do you know what consumers are going to want in several months' time or a few years' time?
So in terms of predicting consumer behaviour, I would say there's a few parts to that. There is an amazing team that we have that does a lot of research in that space of what trends are coming up around the world. So there's a lot of research that goes into that, but sometimes it's a guess.
And is there a tea that you can point to that's really surprised you?
Probably matcha has been a bit of a surprise. It's not overly a surprise that health and wellbeing mega movement has been so popular, and this is a mega movement we've seen over a number of years. I think zero alcohol beers and zero alcohol wines now is a big trend in that health and wellbeing space. You see it in the beauty industry. So it's no surprise in some respects that those health and wellbeing teas are much more of a focus, and matcha is a great alternative for coffee. Over 1 million Australians went to Japan last year, and that was up over 50% from the year prior. And they're coming back with this love of the ritual from Japan. But I just didn't think it'd be so big.
Wow, okay, quite unexpected. Have another fish in the hat. What's the hardest thing about leadership?
I would say, Sally, the balance between being democratic and authoritative. It's that balance between giving your whole team space to do what they do best, empowering them to own it, to lead in their way that they should lead. But at the same time, sometimes you need to own the decision and you need to be more authoritative and you need to make the decision and the call. There's normally a time and place for both of those situations. I find from a day-to-day, we like to be a little bit more democratic, give everyone a voice, let them take accountability for the decisions of their function or their team or their particular job. But at the same time, in times of crisis, sometimes you've just got to make the call and get things done and go. And that's where the team want a leader to step up and make those calls. One example that comes to mind is when the Queensland cyclones were on, and we had to make a call whether we shut some of our stores in anticipation to allow our staff to go home, or do we leave it open for trade? And this was before the malls had a mandatory shutdown in some of those zones, and someone needs to just step up and make the calls. We don't have time to go pros and cons and manage do we risk losing all of that revenue, etc. We just need to make the call. It's a people first call. We shut it, they go home, they get to safety, and we make sure we look after our team.
Yeah, okay, interesting. And a good example of that. On that note, Christelle, we have finished with the chatter hat. Well done.
Great.
I've now got one final question for you, and that is, if you weren't the Managing Director of T2T, what would you be doing?
I think I would be doing an AI startup and rethinking about the fundamentals of how we solve problems with AI. I think the pace of change has never been this fast. It'll never be this slow ever again. It's exciting what you can do with AI in this day and age. And I think I would be playing with that. We solve problems within the bounds and constraints of how an organisation is set up today. There is a finance function, a HR function, etc. I think I would want to reinvent what that looks like in the future with AI. And I think that's where I'd be dabbling.
So when you say set up an AI company, would it be a company that was actually involved in artificial intelligence, or would you like to use the artificial intelligence to create a whole new structure for a company that might actually do something else?
I think it's more the latter, Sally. It's more around how can you use AI to completely rethink an entire business model as we do today. We are using ChatGPT and the likes in the bounds of what we do and the constraints of what we had. But imagine if you were to start an organisation today, would you even have a CFO, a HR, a head of ops, all these different roles and all these different teams? How would you do it completely differently? How would you rethink what those resources look like? Would you have a whole bunch of data engineers, software engineers? Would that be your first hire? Will it be salespeople? Would it be the CFO? What would that even look like? You could really rethink all of that entirely.
I love that. Using AI and reimagining companies. It's fantastic.
Well, who knows? Maybe we can do a little bit at T2 and reimagine the way that we use analytics and AI in retail.
Yeah, exactly. And that's it. Your 15 minutes is up. Christelle, I really love your advice not to tiptoe around situations. You need to tackle something head on, speak up and use your voice. I also really enjoyed our discussion about decisions and making no decision, or indeed taking too long to make a decision, can play havoc. So there are times where you just need to make a decision even when you don't have 100% of all the information. Indeed, 80% is enough. I also like the fact that you have changed in the way that you hire people. So you're not just looking now for experience and skills today, but you're really looking for someone's future potential. I think that's really great advice. Thank you so much for coming in and allowing us to spend 15 minutes with the boss. It's been fantastic.
Thanks for having me, Sally.
And thank you to everyone for listening. If you like the podcast and you want to hear more, consider sharing the podcast or writing a review, as it helps us to reach more people. And follow us wherever you get your podcasts. At the Financial Review, we investigate the big stories about markets, business and power. For more, go to afr.com, and you can subscribe to the Financial Review, the daily habit of successful people, at afr.com/subscribe. This podcast was hosted by me, Sally Patton, produced and edited by Mandy Coulin. Head of audio is Alex Gow, and our executive producer is Fiona Buffini.
The Australian Financial Review.